Hey guys, as much as it entertains me to see you guys busting Ronan's balls, and believe me, it does. Over the last year, you guys have been doing a hell of a job in the comment section about breaking his balls about the new technology and the faith that he has in it. Now, I have slowly come around to believing in some of that myself, and one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with still in the industry is the EGR valve and the EGR cooler. So stay tuned, because we're going to tell you what some of these issues are, what causes them, and what maybe the future will hold for these things. So for years, one of my biggest pains in the trucks that I've owned, the Volvo that I owned, or any other truck. I had another Cascadia, although I wasn't driving it, I owned it. I had another driver in it. One of the biggest issues that I had was the EGR valve and the EGR cooler. Constantly, I had a 2014 Volvo, the VNL. In the 7 years that I owned that truck, I put 2 valves on it and 2 coolers. That truck had just under 1 million miles on it when I sold it. So in 1 million miles, I replaced the EGR valve twice and the EGR cooler twice. Not impressed. It's not a part of the system that I'm impressed with. And for the money that it costs and for what they say that it's saving the environment, my personal opinion, scrap it. But that's just my personal opinion. We're just going to tell you a couple things about the EGR valve. If you've been in the business a while and you've been running these trucks for a while, most of you probably know how your EGR system works. The EGR system has got two parts to it, right? You got an EGR valve and your EGR cooler. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The scariest thing that nobody wants to see is when that check engine light comes on. With these trucks and the computers that are in them, when you get a check engine light, it could be one of about 1 million things. And the last thing you want is an EGR issue, especially if you're far from home or just trying to get these things fixed or a pitch.
Hey guys, just a side note here. Doesn't matter if you're a US driver or a Canadian driver. If you're looking for financing, hit the link at the bottom of this page. We've got it set up that one quick hit, 20 seconds is all it's going to take you to fill out the information, and it will automatically go out there to 5 different finance companies. This is a great way to do this. I did it. I used it. I filled it out in Ronan's office, and I don't know, I didn't make it out to the parking lot before I had my first phone call. Make these companies fight for your business. You will get a better rate that way. I'm proof of it. I say do it.
But let's start with the valve. The biggest common issue with the EGR valve is that they stick open. And once they're stuck open, you can't just take them out, chisel them loose, throw a little WD-40 on it, and we're all good. It doesn't work that way. You're scrapping it. The biggest cause for an EGR valve is idling. Or low revs, running at low revs. When that happens, the engine is not reaching the optimum burning temperature for all the departiculate. Man, it's not even cold out here and the mouth ain't working. Anyway, so your engine is not getting hot enough to burn off, and you're getting carbon, okay? And it's a carbon buildup on the valve, okay? It's almost like a flutter. When this thing is stuck open, what's happening is you're getting raw air, dirty air, exhaust, going through the valve, straight back into your engine. Now, this is gonna cause a couple of problems. First indicator might be you got rough idling. If you're sitting there and I got squirrel, something over there. You're gonna have rough idling. So if you're sitting there, most trucks of these new trucks, their idle rate is about between 550 and 600 RPM is where they should sit when you're just sitting here with the engine running and you're in park. If it's idling, it should be a nice little you know your engine. But for any reason it starts idling a little rough, that could be an indicator, okay? Rough idling is, I'm not gonna say it's a big one, but it's a tip off. Poor performance. When your EGR valve goes, your truck's gonna suck ass. It really is. You're gonna get no performance out of it. You'll lose power climbing hills. You're gonna lose power just going down the road. It will, I think, in some trucks, it might, depending on how bad the situation is, it can derate you. Because when you start pushing dirty air through, then you've got NOx sensors. You got your inlet and your outlet NOx sensors. And when those things start sensing that there's more departiculate, I'll get that word right one day, but when these sensors notice that there's more particles going through that's supposed to be, they'll trip off and that will derate you. There's 100 things that'll derate you, but the EGR and DPF system is probably the biggest one. So yeah, you're going to get poor performance. It's also going to send your fuel mileage down. Okay, you're going to be consuming more fuel. The truck is going to be struggling for things. The computer's going to go, oh, it needs more fuel. It'll start dumping more fuel on. Now, what's going to happen? That fuel, because your engine's not reaching the optimum temperature, what happens? That fuel isn't going to get burnt off properly. Again, causing carbon. When the engine's not burning off at the optimum burning temperature for the fuel, well, what happens then? Well, it goes through the whole system. I don't know if you've ever been sitting around, or say you come up a ramp. You're coming up a ramp, you get the top of the ramp, you come to the light, you stop for a second, the truck's been doing 60 miles an hour or 65 miles an hour, you stop, for some reason you can smell fuel. Believe it or not, if your valve is gone, if you've got an EGR valve that's shot or on the way out, that fuel you smell is coming out of your stacks, okay? It's coming out of your exhaust. And that's another indicator. If you can smell fuel and you don't know where the hell it's coming from, check your EGR valve.
So in my videos, I talk a lot about financing and interest rates because 90% of the time when I look at lease agreements, our hardworking truck drivers are getting taken advantage of. My heart drops when I see finance agreements and drivers being charged between 12 to 18% interest fees. I have created a link below. Whether you're a Canadian driver or an American driver, with a click of a button, you can make these finance companies compete for your business. It's a simple form that would literally take you 20 to 30 seconds, but you can save thousands of dollars. Once you hit submit, this form is going to go to 4 different lenders. Let them compete for your business.
Okay, so that's pretty much the valve. Yes, I'm blind. I have to look. And yes, I took notes. And yes, I love my wife. So there are, I don't know, what would we say, 4 or 5 common issues on a valve. Now, depending on the truck and the manufacturer, whether it be Detroit, Cummins, Packard, Volvo, I don't know. I've never had to replace the valve on this thing. I don't know what it cost. I do know that on a D13, on the 2014 Volvos, the valve, depending on the province, state, or area that you're in, the part you're looking at upwards of around $1,000, and this is Canadian, and then the labor to put it on. So you're up around a $1,700 bill. The cooler, we'll talk about that in a second because there's really not a whole lot to the cooler, but the cooler, those are about $2,800 Canadian. And again, with the labor, so you're looking at probably about a $3,500 bill for an EGR cooler. The second half of this is the EGR cooler. And it's one of those things that you don't have to be a scientist to figure out what this thing does. It's right in the name, folks. It's a cooler. It's an EGR cooler. What does it do? It cools the gases before it crams it back into your engine. You can't run hot, super hot exhaust gases back in through the intake manifold. So they have to be cooled. It's a box. The gas runs through it. There are fins inside. It's got coolant lines that run through it, and it cools the gas. Now, if your EGR valve is shot and you're cramming dirty air through your EGR cooler, what's happening? Well, you're going to clog the cooler. And again, I've heard of guys, instead of replacing them, they've taken them off, dumped them in a bucket full of CLR, let them sit there for a couple of hours or a day or whatever, and taken them out, dried them out, and put them back on. I've never heard a complete success story, whether it's worked, great or not. Both times that I did it, they pulled it off. They did the flashlight down the intake. You could see that it was absolutely jammed, solid, white, just crap in there. And that is that your cooler is shot. And that is basically when the valve goes, your cooler is going to go shortly thereafter, because all of that dirty air, all of the departiculate, all of the exhaust, everything is running right through that cooler. And when it goes into the cooler and it hasn't been cleaned and it hasn't been burnt off the way it's supposed to, that air that's going into the cooler is already supposed to be burnt off and be clean, somewhat clean, and then get crammed back into your exhaust intake manifold. If that doesn't happen, your cooler is going to cram up, and you're looking at it, like I said, a $3,500 bill. So let's just say with the EGR valve, when it goes, chances are shortly thereafter your cooler is going to go. If you get lucky and you catch the valve at the beginning stages, you might be able to save the cooler. But if they both go at the same time, you're looking at probably about a $5,000 bill. And it sucks. Now, I'm not speaking for anybody but myself. I hate this. I really do hate this EGR and this DPF and the DEF fluid that we have to put in. The numbers on these don't impress me. How do I say this without getting anybody in trouble? But I've got a couple of guys that do have deleted trucks, okay, and they're running as good mileage with their trucks deleted as we are running with all the crap on them, and they've got more horsepower. And you know what? I got no problem with that. Do I want to save the planet? Sure, yeah, I want to save the planet. Does it help? From what I understand, I don't know how much it really helps. I haven't done the scientific numbers on it, on whether, you know, every particle coming out of my exhaust is better than the old exhaust. I do know that the state of California is the reason that we're all in this bull. But anyway, let's get back to EGR coolers and valves. They're on the trucks. It doesn't look like they're going anywhere for the time being. So I know that the 2022's got them. Everybody else underneath, I think all the way down to what, 2007, 2006. So they went from 2006 up to 2022, and it doesn't look like they're going anywhere in the near future. So anyway, if you've got EGR issues, EGR valve, EGR cooler issues, you're having problems, let us know what your problems are. I want to hear more. Like what I listed off here for you are just the common, you know, things that, you know, we've come up with of problems with these valves and coolers. But if you've got things or something that might be a little off that I haven't touched on, hit us up in the comments, let us know. And that's a lot of people reading these comments, and that's a lot of help that we can give you guys. So if you've got something that can help or something that you know, throw it in the comment. People, you know, it'll help somebody else out, save them, you know, the bill of having to take it in and get it plugged in just to say, oh yeah, it's just a fake code or something. So yeah, throw it down there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, hit that notification button. When we throw up a video, you'll be notified and you can go, yes, I have to take the time out of my busy day to watch Brian. Whatever. We'll see you down the road.